Since Mistwinter is a story-driven visual novel-like game, the majority of it is dialogue, and that's most of what the player sees. But there are some critical mechanics that lie underneath all that dialogue. Some determine what event you will encounter, others keep track of reputation and resources. If you really think about it, you can probably understand that those mechanics exist. But one of the most crucial mechanics is one that's only mentioned in one of the tutorial squares and then just kind of happens automatically. That's the mechanic we're talking about today. It's the character's skills, or stats. Call it whatever you want. Anyway, every character in the game has a set of skills. These skills are divided into the following categories: strength, stealth, magic, wisdom, knowledge, religion, charm or charisma, diplomacy, and healing. Most of these are quite self-explanatory, but let's clarify the difference between wisdom and knowledge and charm and diplomacy. Wisdom is the knowledge about anything occult. It's mostly knowledge about magical stuff, but folklore and mythological creatures count as well. Pure knowledge, on the other hand, is anything that can't be classified as wisdom. Street smarts, book smarts, cultural proficiency, whatever. That's knowledge. Charm, or charisma, and diplomacy are also fairly similar. But charm is used to determine how likable a character is at first glance. It's about how persuasive they are, if a lot of people would listen to them if they held a speech, and so on. Diplomacy, on the other hand, is how good they are at solving disputes. Do they know how to handle two people who are at each other's throats? Will they be able to convince people of pursuing the best course of action? These skills aren't as mutually exclusive as wisdom and knowledge, but they are still very different, at least in our minds. So how do these skills look in the game? Well, they are numbers. Yep, only numbers, nothing visual. I know it's boring with numbers, but this is interesting, I promise. Every person who can live in Mistwinter Bay has a total of 200 skill points. These points are divided on the 9 skills depending on the character's personality, profession, background, and so on. A skill can have between 0 and 50 points. As an example, the Aveliris Priestess Dawn's skills look like this. These numbers can change in the future since this is one of the things we have to playtest when the game is more complete. We don't want some characters to be too useful and others basically worthless, so the townsfolk have 200 skill points to use. The foreign leaders, on the other hand, have 250 points. That's because they are supposed to be difficult opponents if the players have to face off against them, but we haven't used their skills for anything so far. The townsfolk use their skills a lot more. Every time the player sends someone out on a quest, like figuring out who hides in an old coffin full of cryptic runes, the skills determine if the mission is a success or not. In the case of the coffin full of runes, the character needs to have 40 knowledge to be guaranteed to find out whose coffin it is. Otherwise, it's a 50-50 success chance for this task. If a character meets the skill requirements of a certain task and are guaranteed to succeed, their name box is green, if you have that setting turned on. This name box is basically the only indication players get regarding characters' skills. However, the green name box doesn't necessarily relate to skills. It can be related to who the characters are too. To put it short, if I decide that a specific character should be able to complete a specific task, even if they don't have the skills for it, they will. I made this game, I can do whatever I want. Anyway, let's backtrack a bit to what I said about skill point distribution. I said that they can be between 0 and 50, but that's not entirely true. It isn't possible to make a skill less than 0, but it is possible to increase stats. And so far, you can only do it in one way. That's by going a specific route in Englia's personal quest. If you go the right way, you can pick a character in town to permanently increase their strength. So if the character started with, let's say, 30 strength, they might have 40 for the rest of the game. We want to keep these stat changes rare and only increase stats a little bit, though. Mostly for balancing, but also for narrative purposes. Sometimes it doesn't make any sense if a specific character can complete certain tasks after all. If they start out with 0 charm, all of their hangouts portray them as incredibly shy, and then they suddenly get 40 charm and they can complete tasks that require them to hold speeches for big audiences. In other words, in-game stat increases should be kept within the realm of reason. There are of course other variables that play into the use of the skills, like RNG determining if a character who doesn't meet the skill requirements succeed or not, but this is the general gist of it. You can experience this mechanic yourself by playing the demo for Mistwinter Bay. It's free on itch.io and Steam. Please wishlist it on Steam. Please. If you play the demo and wonder about any other mechanics in it, please tell us about it and we might make a video explaining them next. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.